Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Vero, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing my A4 bullet journal. Now, if you're unfamiliar, I have been bullet journaling in a big bullet journal for the last 6 months, and to give you an idea, this is what it looks like. I've got 3 different size journals in my hands, and the typical bullet journal size is this one right here. This is an A5 bullet journal. This one is a B5 bullet journal, which is one of the smaller ones, and this one is a letter size or an A4 bullet journal. Now, as you can see, it is quite large compared to what most people would generally use, and I've been using this for the last 6 months. I've been bullet journaling over the last 7 years, and I've generally stuck to one size of bullet journal because I had been traveling and I didn't really know that other sizes really existed, nor did I really want to venture out and try them. But like any other habit in your life, sometimes they can get a little bit mundane and sometimes you want to spice things up. So that is why when I came back to Australia, I decided that I was going to try something new and try using this lovely journal. I received this journal in the Archer and Olive subscription box. I think it was the second box, and I was really excited to get it. However, I didn't really know what to do with such a huge journal, so I decided to test it out when I came back to Australia. Because I haven't been traveling for the last 6 months, this has been a good opportunity to use it because of the size. Now, if you don't know, I'm also an Archer and Olive affiliate, and I love this brand. I talk about it all the time. So if you want to support me by buying some of their products, you can use the discount code VERO10 for 10% off, or you can click on one of the affiliate links down below. It does give me a small commission if you do purchase, so if you do, thank you very much. Now let's get into the meat of this video, the positives and the negatives of bullet journaling in an A4 journal. I find that there are several positives and several negatives to using this journal, and they tend to overlap, but let's try and break them down. For the positives, number 1, I think that if you are feeling inspired, you're feeling a little bit limited in an A5 journal and you just want to explore your creativity in a larger format, then this is a really great opportunity for you. The size means that you have so much space in your journal to get creative, draw, paint, do whatever you want in a bullet journal, and it's just a lot of fun. You can create so many different spreads and layouts, you can use Dutch doors and tabs, and it's just so diverse in the amount of options that you have. I don't think I've used a particular spread more than once in my journal, unless it was a specific spread that I wanted to use because of its functionality. What I'm talking about is when you see this journal on camera in my videos, you don't necessarily know or understand how big it is, but I'm just going to open it right now. To give you an idea, this is my head and this is the journal. This is a huge amount of space that you can utilize to get creative. Another reason you might want to try using an A4 size journal is because you're lacking inspiration in an existing journal, or you're just lacking inspiration in general. I find that starting a new journal is a really fun way to get back into bullet journaling. I find that trying a new size could really help you get your groove back on. Number 3 is that a lot of brush pens that you find are really fat tip brush pens. And in an A5 journal, if you want to use that big calligraphy style, an A5 journal just doesn't give you as much space to do that. However, in this size journal, you can go crazy with Tombow dual brush pens because they are the size that I was using in this journal, and they are just big enough for this journal, but they don't seem like they're taking up too much space. For example, this is my cover page, and this is a Tombow dual brush pen with the really fat tip brush pen, and it just works really nicely in this journal. Another positive is that this journal size can typically last you for an entire year. One of the biggest problems that I find with an A5 journal is that they're too small and they don't usually last me for an entire year. This can be inconvenient because it's expensive sometimes to buy new journals, and honestly, setting up a new journal is often just as daunting. Sometimes you just want to have the simplicity of one journal, hence why this size could be better. Unfortunately for me, this is not going to last me for an entire year. That's because I've cut out so many blank pages when I could have resisted to just using a couple. Regardless, it has lasted me all the way until August, giving me 4 months left of the year for a new bullet journal, or a different method if I so choose. I will be going over this in another video though, because I will be using a different bullet journal. However, I'm not going back to an A5 just yet. Now, I've been raving about the positives of using this size journal, but there are quite a few negatives. The biggest negative that I have come up with is if you're traveling or moving around This is huge. This size journal is not convenient to take around with you. It is the same size as a laptop almost. For an idea, here's a comparison. This is one of the MacBooks and it is quite frankly the same size as it. And although the size is fine because then you can carry it around together, it's heavy. And especially if you're going somewhere only overnight but you needed to bring your bullet journal with you, this size is a little bit too cumbersome and I wouldn't recommend it if you are on the move frequently. Now, circling back to one thing that I said was a positive for this journal, it can also double back as a negative. One of the positives was you have endless creative possibilities and outlets in a big journal like this. However, sometimes having too much choice is overwhelming and daunting. That's happened to me multiple times in this journal, and while most of the times it didn't happen, this month, for example, for June and for August, I'm finding that it's quite difficult to figure out what I want to do creatively in this journal to display any bullet journaling spreads, and that takes up hours of my time. For example, I was brainstorming for August and it took me literally 3 hours in the morning just to figure out something that I didn't end up going for. So that's one of the big negatives of this journal. Even though you have a huge creative freedom, it's not always helpful. One of the other negatives is that if you're used to bullet journaling in A5 journal, you tend to migrate the same spreads into your A4 journal, just happen to make them larger. So instead of having one page for your habit trackers that you would have in an A5 journal, such as this page over here, you would migrate that to an entire 2-page spread in this journal, which means that you're not actually saving space, you're just making your spreads bigger, and it doesn't actually save any space in the journal, so it doesn't end up lasting a whole year. Like I said, it would have been one of those positive things. Regardless, I am very happy that I did try and use this bullet journal. It was practical because I was staying put in one place and I wasn't going to be moving around all that much, and I did enjoy the creative freedom it gave me for the last 6 months that I've used it. I will continue using this for the next 2 months before I move on to a new journal, and if you want to see me set up that new journal, come back in 2 months, or I hope you stick around to see more of these spreads. A few key takeaways from using this size journal though. If you are interested in expanding to a larger form journal, I do recommend going only one step up from an A5 journal, going for a B5 journal. Now let me get one of those out so that I can show you the size. A B5 journal is a step down from an A4 journal, but a step up from an A5 journal. I'm just going to show you the size comparison right here. So this is the size comparison. As you can see, this is a Leuchtturm 1917 journal. I love this brand and I'm also an affiliate with them, so if you happen to live in Australia, specifically Australia, because otherwise it's cheaper for you to buy from the local stores. If you do live in Australia and you're interested in buying from Leuchtturm 1917, you can use the code VERO20 to get 20% off your first purchase with Leuchtturm 1917 Australia. Anyway, back to the sizes. Starting off with this size bullet journal might help you understand how many options you have in terms of spreads and layouts, and it might actually get you pumped or not pumped to go for a bigger size journal. A personal takeaway is that even though I thought I would have more creative freedom, I found that it was often the opposite. I found it quite overwhelming to use such a huge journal, especially when I had to use so much paint to cover a background. It ended up wasting a lot of paint. I cut out a lot of pages, which I felt was a bit of a waste of space, and then it was a little bit too cumbersome at times. I would recommend this format if you're going for a more minimal aesthetic where you're only going to be writing to-do lists and small, or like the original style of bullet journaling, because it will last you a long time. You can also doodle on the sides and it is a great format. I recommend it specifically for people who are not going to be moving around in the near future for a whole year, for example, because with such a huge journal, it is really annoying to carry around. All in all, would I recommend this size to anybody? Yes, I would recommend it if you're extremely creative, you want to start painting in larger scale, if you're not moving around anytime soon. However, will I be personally using a journal this size again? I don't think so, because I think it was a little bit too overwhelming, and also for filming it is not always the most practical because I have to have my camera higher, but that's small details. That's on my personal side. That being said, it's always fun to try things and I'm always excited to try new things, so maybe I will go back to it in a couple of years if I'm looking for a new whiff of inspiration after a period of stagnation. We'll see. Anyway, I'm not quite finished with this journal. There are still a couple of pages that I haven't used, so you'll have to stick around for another month or so before you see the full flip through of this journal. But just to give you a little bit of a sneak peek, here's a couple of pages. Today, let's quickly recap on the different sizes. This is an A4, a B5, an A5 and a B6. Those are the different size journals. This is my head in comparison. I think I have an average sized head, and I hope this video helps you in choosing your next size journal. And if you do give this size journal a try, I would love to see your results, so definitely tag me in any pictures that you post on Instagram at VeroBujo. Anyway, for more bullet journal spreads, you can find my July plan with me right over here.